All right, so in this video, I will be showing you guys not only how to start a Pear Deck lesson once you're done finishing it, but also how to share it with your students and what it will look like for you as a teacher and for them as the students. So once you're done building your Pear Deck slideshow and your presentation, your lesson, make sure that you click on this start lesson instead of this present. This present is just gonna put this presentation in present mode, and it's not going to allow your students to join. So once you click start lesson, it's going to give you two options. One of them is going to say student pace, and the other one is going to be instructor pace. So if you just want them to kind of work at their own pace, you would click on this, and then you could just pop in and see their work while they're working at different slides. The instructor pace would be if you're teaching through Zoom or through Google Meets, and you want them in the same exact slide as you. So I'm going to go ahead and click on instructor pace. And so what should pop up is a window asking for you to log in, use your credentials, use your school credentials to make sure to log in. I'm already logged in. The other thing that's going to pop up, which is great for teachers, but I would not recommend you showing this to your students, is the teacher dashboard. And in another video, we will go over a little bit more about what you can do with the teacher dashboard. So on here, just briefly, the reason why you wouldn't want to show this to your students is because when their answers show up, it's actually going to show up with their names. And the whole purpose of creating the slideshow through Pear Deck is that when you show answers, it's going to be anonymous. But if you show the answers through this teacher dashboard, it's going to show all of their names. So that's going to prevent, or that's going to cause a lot of your students to not share their thinking because they're going to be put on the spot. Okay, so what I would recommend is either put this in a different window if you have multiple screens, or you could always use a different device, and you can simply go on this little link and it will pop up on your other device. So you could kind of see if you want to see their answers, but also their names attached to it. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize this. All right, so in order to share this with your students, you can do it a few ways. If you click on this little link here, you could simply ask them to go to joinpd.com and to type this in as their code, and you'll get all of your students in there that way. That's one way that I've had my students log in through JoinPD. That's probably one of the easiest ones. You could also invite your students, but I think the most commonly used method, at least for in my class, is since we use Google Classroom, I have a tab on there that has all the notes. So for me and for my students, it's easier if I just copy this link, and all I did was I click, and then I post it on their Google Classroom or schedule it so that it's ready for them to go and simply click, and then they're in. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go through joinpd.com and just type that in as a code. And again, this is just what the kids would see if you just have them go through joinpd.com. So while you're doing your Zoom or your Google Meets, you could just post this video when you share your screen, and then you'll see that at the bottom left-hand corner, you should be able to see how many students are connected. So right now it has the first student, and you could just kind of wait. But also, like, even if I close this, the code is always going to be posted up here. So if kids are still logging in through Google Classroom or they're going through joinpd.com, this link, regardless of what slide, will always appear. So you could always just throw the joinpd.com into the chat, and then they could just constantly use this code. So if a kid gets kicked out or the computer falls asleep or anything like that, they could always use this code to come back in. All right, so on the teacher view is pretty basic here. You have all of your information. If you saw my previous video on how to actually make interactive slides with Pear Deck, you will get to see that the first thing that the kids are going to see or ask are just a simple, how are you feeling today? And again, all this is anonymous, but if you were to take a look at the teacher dashboard, you could see the names attached to it. So if a kid has a red feeling or whatever, you could kind of go back and check in on that student to make sure that they're okay. All right. So again, this is from the student's perspective. So again, if you saw my first video, you would have known that this is a draw slide. So these are all the tools that the kids will have to draw on the slide. So I'm just gonna kind of mark it real quick here. And as you notice, it's not affecting your slideshow, right? It's not affecting your slides. And the good thing about drawing feature, especially in the math, is of course you have the drawing feature there, but especially with graphs, they could simply use the line tool. They could use different colors. They could type if it's easier for them to type. They could change the size. There's lots of options here. It's the most commonly used feature that Pear Deck offers in my math class. Okay, so let me just erase a couple of things, highlight a couple of things. And so what you can do is you can actually show the responses whenever you're ready to show responses. And so you get to see their responses. So you can put it in list layouts. You can put it in grid. So you could kind of, I like using grid just because I get to see more of the answers all at once. You could showcase specific ones if you want to go through lists, especially if you see that there's a commonly missed question or there's a misconception. You can just project somebody's work who actually did it correct, and then just kind of have a small discussion on that part. Okay, so that's the drawing feature. Again, that's probably the most commonly used on in my math class. So then when you're ready to hide responses, you could go ahead and hide the responses, and you're back to your slideshow here. And again, whatever they draw on here, they're drawing on their interactive slides, and they're not drawing on your slide whatsoever. Okay, so I think that's pretty powerful there. You can provide immediate feedback. All right. So that's the draw feature. The other feature, you don't always have to have an interactive slide. So I just went to my next slide. And if you notice, there's nothing for them to do here because there is no interactive slide attached to this. So they can't draw, they can't type, which is okay. Sometimes you just want to provide information to them. Okay, if I go to my next one, this one was the typing tool. So I just wanted them to answer this quick question using this definition. Why is the second table not a function? So what they will see the same slide, right? So they don't have to go back and forth between the Zoom and the Pear Deck. It's all on here. And so they can go ahead and answer here. And again, what you will see that they are not typing on your presentation, but they are typing on their slideshow. So on here, again, if you want to show your responses, it's not going to show their name. You get to see kind of their answers. And again, I like to use grid layout so you can see the answers immediately and a lot more of the answers. If your kids are using a cell phone as their device, instead of having this little screen over here on the right-hand side, they're going to see this little answer question in the bottom right-hand corner. All right, so let me just respond real quick. Here's another person that signed in, and you could kind of see it in real time. So if they start to delete it, you could kind of see that in real time. And of course, they could also type. They could put other responses here. They could put multiple responses if you want them to, and you get to see them there. Okay, so that's the typing tool. All right. And notice again that they can't move on to any other slide. We picked the teacher pace, so they cannot move on to the next slide. So hide responses, and then I go back. The next one was the multiple choice, the true false. Again, they see the slideshow on the left-hand side, and they see the true false or whatever multiple choice you created on your end when you were building your Pear Deck. So I'm going to give a couple responses here so you can kind of see what that looks like from the teacher perspective. Okay, so again, they're not writing on your stuff, and if you show responses, the multiple choice will show like this. So if there were multiple options here, you could kind of see the number of people that responded true, the number of people that responded false. So that would be the grid, the overlay, if you want that to give you the information, and of course the grid layout, which I think for multiple choice, you would probably use the overlay. All right, hide responses. The other feature, I believe, was the number feature. So what the kids would see is they would just see them an option to type in a number. 3, and I'll type in on my other device here 1. And again, on your side, that's what you will see. Somebody typed in -3, somebody typed in 1, and if you want to see the grid layout, you could kind of see it like that. Okay, so I love all the features that Pear Deck kind of provides because you could kind of see immediately whether the kids are understanding. And if you only have a couple of them, That's where the teacher dashboard comes into play. So I'll show that kind of briefly here. It will show the name here, and it will show their answer there, and of course how they are feeling. And again, the teacher dashboard here, remember that you're not showing this to your students because the names are attached to their answers, and you don't want that. All right. All right. A couple more here. The other one was the draggable. So this one just wanted to drag to the one that represents a function. And so they just see the icon, whichever icon you want them to use, and then they're just going to drag it. The cool thing about this is you'll get to see this again in real time. So as students are kind of moving it around, you can kind of see it. If you use this a lot, what I do have to say is you're going to get a lot of circles going all over the place. So the other cool thing about this is you could click on lock screens, and they are unable to actually move that around anymore. And you can do that for any slide. So if you want to gain their attention right back, so that they're not drawing or typing or dragging an answer, you could get their immediate attention by simply locking their screens. And if you unlock it, they have the ability again to move or to type or to draw. Okay. The other one, again, was just I like using the summary. So if you saw my other video there, you would have seen how to attach this easily. And again, you can kind of see their answers. This is just an easy typing of their answers there. All right. And of course, the last one, if we ever draw or if you ever go into graphing, I like to just simply embed kind of a blank graph there, have the problem for them to actually graph. And you could easily have them kind of graph that as well. The last thing before I finish here is you could add a new prompt. So if you're kind of in the middle of a class and you want to just add a end of the class slide, it won't affect your slideshow or anything like that. There's multiple options on here. You could have them draw a picture if you want. You could also make a current slide into one of these four. So a text, a draggable, a drawing, or a number. So if you kind of notice here, the kids have nothing to do here. And that was because, honestly, I just forgot to make this into an interactive slide. So if you forget or if you want to add, you just click on New Prompt. And you click on the one that you want them to actually work on. And now I made it on the spot. And so now they have the option to do that. So there's oftentimes where I forget to make it interactive, but I know that I can make it on the spot in case I forget. So I think that's pretty cool. So those are pretty much all the features. That's the teacher view, that's the student view. And then when you are done, you simply can click on N, name it. So I'll name this period 1. And if you have the takeaways options, which is the settings, so if you take a look at the video on the different settings, if you click on publish student takeaways and you save it, what that will do is that will send a email to the students or whoever logged in, and they will give them a copy of all of your notes along with all of the answers that they typed or that they drew. So that's super powerful. In case the kid needs to go back and review, they have a copy of that, and it's sent to the email that they signed in with. Okay, so that does it for me. I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, please make sure to reach out.